Part three. Dang it, my phone keeps shutting down. All right, so I'm. What am I doing? Where was I? Where did I leave off? Vegas. The planes. Oh yeah. Anytime I wanted to on a day off, I could hop a flight to Vegas for free and get a tour of the Grand Canyon, either on the way there or on the way back while I'm at it. And flew in some crazy thunderstorms. Really got thrown around a lot in Twin Otters. The Otter amazed me in some of these storms because it was really, really, iffy weather. And oftentimes you start off and by the time you realize the weather can change very, very quickly and very, very severely in northern Arizona and particularly around the Grand Canyon. So it started off, it can change very quickly, and then you find yourself in a really rough situation, for the aircraft and for the pilots. But I was always amazed, and oftentimes I was, sometimes I was the only one on the airplane coming back from scenic, so it was just incredible. Coming back from Vegas, rather. So it was just amazing to see what this Twin Otter could withstand in terms of incredible wind, gusty wind, hail, thunder and lightning, unbelievable, and what these pilots could do. Two pilots, one pilot, one co-pilot. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was cool, and the scenery. I mean, flying. Right up to a huge thunder head. I mean, you're just right. You're looking at the heart of it, looking at the heart of this thunderhead where the storm is emanating, and it's just mind blowing. So that was really cool. I had to deal with a lot of difficult tourists. But that's cool. What I get to meet Paul Simon there, and I didn't meet him, but I saw them because they flew in on the scenic from Vegas. Paul Simon and Penny Marshall. Uh, anyway, okay, so that was stuff I got to do with that. That was my first experience at Scenic Airlines. Well, after a while, now I've also always been really interested in helicopters. Really interested in helicopters. So a friend of mine who lived at the Grand Canyon, also he worked at a helicopter company. He said, "Hey, he wanted me to come work for him at the helicopter company." Basically, is what happened. And so I said, "Okay." So I switched over from the Scenic Airlines fixed wing aircraft, company, air tour company, to this other company, which was Grand Canyon Helicopters, and I went to work there at the front counter, and then making reservations, checking in people for their flights, printing up tickets, and so on and so forth. Well, pretty soon the person who was the manager of all that just up and quit, and everybody behind the counter, including me, was brand new. So I just sort of took charge, just sort of, because I kind of picked it up pretty quickly, and so I ended up being the manager basically of the ticketing and reservations, counter. So that was really cool, and so Grand Canyon Helicopters. Um, so the interesting couple things. First thing that happened when I became the manager is we were short on helicopters. For 3 months, we had to cancel half of the people who had made reservations way in advance. Half the fleet was down for unscheduled maintenance, and all the helicopters were fully booked for the whole summer. So for about for about a month or so, I had to cancel half the people. Half the people that came into the heliport happy and excited and ready to fly, I had to tell them their flight was canceled, and we didn't have any openings ever. And then the next month, we had plenty of, would I say aircraft shortage? Yeah. And then the next month, we had a pilot shortage by about 50%. So for another month, I had to cancel half the people because we didn't have enough pilots. So that was the stress. But the upsides were I got to fly on the helicopters all the time on my days off and whatnot. At that time, you could fly 500 feet below the rim of the canyon. So I got to fly around in Bell Jet Rangers and Long Rangers, 206B, which is a 4-passenger, and 206L Long Ranger, which is a 6-passenger helicopter. And a lot of these pilots were Vietnam helicopter pilots. They knew how to fly. They knew how to fly. And oftentimes when you were on board, you'd get an extra sporty flight. Some little bit of proximity flying and stuff. It was amazing. The beauty of the canyon, a perspective you'd never see. Flew over forest fires on the North Rim. Again, through unbelievable storms, just incredible. Just love the way the helicopters flew. In addition to the Jet Rangers, they also flew A-Stars, Aerostar helicopters. Um, yeah, and so I flew in those also, which was fantastic. Um, so that was awesome. Got to go on test flights. Got to. They needed weight when the pilot was doing a test flight on a helicopter. They would need to do an auto rotation test, and maybe the pilot was was demonstrating for the chief. The chief pilot would be there, a new hire pilot would be there, and me and a couple people from the other employees would be there on our lunch break, or not on the lunch break, on the clock, because we needed the weight so that when the pilot did the auto rotation test, there'd be enough weight in the helicopter. So we got to sit in the helicopter while they shut off the engine and landed without it. That was really cool. I got to fly to the Havasupai Indian Reservation, which is in a canyon of its own, really remote within the Grand Canyon proper. I got to fly in there. One winter, the helicopter company, decided to give 90 turkeys to the Havasupai Indian Reservation, Native American reservation, in the Grand Canyon for Thanksgiving. We'd given them turkeys for Thanksgiving. Great. They were all frozen. So, and we had to fly these turkeys to the Havasupai Reservation in helicopters. So there's 2 helicopters that left. I was in one of them. Each of these Bell helicopters was loaded to the ceiling in the back with frozen turkeys, all the way to the ceiling. Each one had 45. Each of these helicopters had 45 frozen turkeys in there, and we were flying over the canyon in the winter. We got boxed in a storm, a snowstorm. It was incredible. We'd be flying along, and all of a sudden, no visibility. So we'd stop and hover. We wouldn't. The pilot would stop and hover until a hole opened up, and he'd fly through that hole, and we were flying from hole to hole. It was unbelievable. It was freaky as hell. It was dangerous as hell if it weren't for the skill of these pilots and experience. And it was spectacularly beautiful. It was unbelievable. But it was sketchy. I mean, it was sketchy. It was dangerous. And I kept thinking, man, if we go down, it's going to make an interesting headline. 2 helicopters and 90 turkeys found, inside the Grand Canyon after a crash. But we made it safely and landed in the village. It was snowing like crazy, and we unloaded the turkeys to the people, and then we took off. That was an interesting experience. Anyway, these are some of the things I got to do. Unbelievable. Then the company acquired the Grand Canyon Helicopters Company acquired another company in Hawaii, a helicopter air tour company. They bought an operation on Kauai and on Maui. I asked if I could be transferred there because who wouldn't want to go live in Hawaii, and I got transferred. I was lucky. I didn't make anything. My wages were terrible. I couldn't even afford enough groceries. But they did take care of me with things like that. I wanted to go to Hawaii and work there and they said, okay. So I got to go live first on Kauai, and they were flying the Aerospeciale helicopters mostly there, and got to fly all over the place, all over Maui and Kauai on these helicopters. Unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable. Got to live in Hawaii, first on Kauai and then on Maui. On Kauai, I lived at Princeville, and then on Maui, I lived, where did I live? Oh, geez, I can't remember the name of it. Kapalua, near Lahaina. So that was incredible. Of course, those helicopters had floats on them, just in case. We flew up narrow, tropical, jungly type of canyons with waterfalls. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And then I worked as a guide for quite a while. Not working for an aviation company, but as a guide. But one of the popular trips for the guide company was you'd come to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. You'd hire me as your guide, and we would fly to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and then we would backpack from the north rim of the Grand Canyon all the way down to the Colorado River and up the south rim to the other side. You'd walk all the way from one rim to the other rim of the Grand Canyon in 5 days. So I had some hairy flights on the Cessna 182 because the Scenic Airlines also owned some Cessna 182s, nose wheeler. So we one time I had me and 4 clients, backpacking guide clients, and our huge backpacks. We were all stuffed into this Cessna 182 and going from the south rim over to the north rim in an unbelievably violent thunderstorm. Oh, it was cooler than shit. I kept thinking, if I don't die, I'm going to be really glad that this happened because this is exciting as all heck. And then, so we made it through. The plane was being violently thrown around. And lightning was coming down really close. It was super hard rain. You couldn't even see out the windows. But this pilot was badass, and he did it. And the final part was, instead of having a runway where you come in and you land, the runway was a series of 3 hills. And first you come in and kind of bounce off the first hill, then you'd glance off the second hill, and finally you'd try to land on the top of the third hill. And as we came in on our approach, on one of the times, I could see the right-hand wheel down at the window, and the tire touched a treetop of a tree. It touched it. And then we went down steep, and we landed. we did basically a 3-point drop landing almost in a Cessna 182 on the top of this hill. And then myself and the guide clients, we went off and did our hike. So that was pretty cool. And now I'm going to wrap this up. My last, most recent aviation, general aviation working experience was a place called Lake Union Air in Seattle. And there's a huge lake called Lake Union. And they did a similar thing. You could drive to their location in Seattle, near downtown Seattle, and take a scenic flight by float plane to the San Juan Islands in northwestern Washington, up in Puget Sound. Oh, gorgeous place. Or you could go to British Columbia, to Victoria or Vancouver, British Columbia, I think. Is that right? Victoria, yeah, I believe that's right. So that was cool. So I got to fly on my days off, and also while working on the job, I got to fly on de Havilland Beavers on floats, Turbo Beavers on floats, and Twin Otters on floats. Oh my God, that was fun. Oh my God, that was fun. And we would fly to these little islands, little tiny islands, charming islands, with this in the green waters, and the sun is glinting off the green waters. And we'd land at these little islands and go in and on the job, and we'd look at these little guest properties and tourist properties that were in cahoots with our flying company, because the flying company would offer tours including lodging at these places. So we would do these familiarization tours on these float planes, and it was unbelievable. So this is already a 3-part video, and I'm sorry because it kept shutting down on me because my phone had too much stuff already recorded on it and not yet deleted. But that's the end. So this is why I'm so excited about RC flying, especially with an FPV camera on there, because for me, when I see the live image on my monitor of my plane flying, and I'm flying it, it looks just like when I would look out the window of the Twin Otter or the Cessna or the Beaver, or in the case of a helicopter, I used to fly a Blade 230 SV2. I might get another one. But anyway, in all those cases, I like that angle that I'm using now for FPV because I feel like I'm on board. It replicates the views that I got on all these different amazing full-scale general aviation airplanes in some amazing scenic places. And so gives me the feeling, and plus, but I'm flying. It's responding to my commands. I'm not just sitting there as a passenger. It's responding to my commands. So to me, it's kind of like, well, anyway. It reminds me of what I've seen on amazing flights on amazing airplanes, yet I'm flying the airplane, so I get that too. So there you go. So that's now that I'm flying FPV on both my Carbon Cub S2 and my Maul M7. It's so exciting because what I'm seeing is pretty close. It's not a pilot's view, granted, but it's kind of a blend between a pilot's view and a passenger's view, right? The passenger actually gets a better view, right? I flew on a Cessna 182 a number of times. Another company owned those and did those, used those exclusively for air tours. So I would fly in the left seat of a Cessna 182. I couldn't even see over the dashboard. And I could see a little bit off to the side. And I noticed that the pilot spent most of his time looking off to the side, out to the right and down, kind of seeing one side of the aircraft. So my view is not that different from a pilot's view. It's just farther back, and it shows more of the airplane because I think seeing an aircraft in flight is a beautiful thing. And I've seen it many times with my own eyeballs in the Grand Canyon and elsewhere in these beautiful aircraft that I've been able to fly. So, yay! Okay, that's it, folks. I don't know. I hope this has been interesting for somebody. But that's why I love RC flying so much. And again, particularly flying FPV, it is so close. There's a certain feeling that I've gotten from all these full-scale aviation experiences that were just wonderful. The joy and the glee. I hate to use a word like glee, but seriously, it's an amazing, wonderful feeling to be aboard an aircraft in a beautiful place. And I get dang near that same feeling flying FPV with a nice scale model. All right, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Let me grab my producer right here, who's off, standing by. All right, Jimmy says, thanks a lot, everybody in the community. Love y'all. Have a great day. Hope I didn't bore you to heck. Jimmy, yes? Jimmy says, all right, let's go for a walk.